So, here we go.
It was filled with childish frustrations and complexes which the police were searching for James Thomas, believed
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You were listening to Midnight Movie Gang. My name is Elsie Hines. My pronouns are he, him.
Courtney, they, them.
Yeah. And you're listening to episode 12 of Midnight Movie Gang. 1-2.
Hell yeah.
It's been some episodes. Things are... how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You vibing?
Yeah, just came off a nice winter break, going back to school. Spent today painting.
Awesome.
I'm having a great day.
Yeah, I've had a chill day as well. Things definitely turned around. We're both home today, and like at one point you were like, let's go on a snack run.
Yeah.
And
it changed the whole course of the day.
It changed our life. We went to a local like organic grocery store. What would you call it? Like an upper, like a...
Yeah, it's like a fancy grocery store.
We went to a fancy grocery store.
Like if you grocery shop there, you're in a different tax bracket.
Exactly. We don't go there for our main groceries. We just
go there for snacks.
For snacks and yerba.
It's like going to Trader Joe's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That kind of update. Which, by the way, if anyone from Yerba Mate is listening, if Yerba wants us, I want that Kenny Beats Yerba fridge.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
That would be a great addition to the studio.
That would be. Yeah, that yerba fridge is so cool. At the very least, he has that yellow neon yerba sign. I want that. Anyway, yeah, so today we are talking Studio Ghibli, more specifically films by Hayao Miyazaki through Studio Ghibli, directed by him. There are other Studio Ghibli films that aren't directed by him, but no one cares about those.
Damn.
And specifically... this is brought on by, we recently saw The Boy and the Heron in theaters, which was a cool experience, which we'll talk about. A cool and confusing experience. But before we get into the movies at all, we drinking some tea, like always. And we haven't tried this tea yet. It's brand new tea. You're going to get a live reaction on air.
It is, we got it at an international market. And it is the Ahmed tea brand from London. The flavor is Strawberry Sensation.
Strawberry Sensation.
And there's a description on the back of the bag. It says, capture the feeling of strawberry fields in summer. A refreshing and sweet strawberry flavor blended magnificently with the finest black tea. So I have high hopes for this.
Yeah, no, the description's sounds quite good.
Right. And
so,
if it's trash, I'm going to be really sad.
Yes, let's clink glasses.
Let's clink.
I'm going to clink in front of your mic.
Okay.
That way everyone can hear it. The clink. There we go.
There we go.
That was a good clink.
Ooh.
I like it.
I like it too. I get the strawberry.
Absolutely. Strawberries are... It's quite mild for a black tea. Like, it's not too bitter for a black tea.
Yeah.
And I don't drink my tea with sugar. So.
I do, because I'm sweet.
I don't, because I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
I think that's just comes from, like, my growing up. When my mom would give me teas and stuff, she'd put way too much sugar in it. Also, I don't know, I kind of prefer hot teas to cold teas for the most part.
Yeah, I think I do too, but I prefer iced coffee
yeah.
over hot coffee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love the vibe of a hot tea.
Yeah.
Hot tea is cozy.
Yeah.
Because you don't drink... The thing with... When I'm drinking coffee or caffeine, I'm, like, on the go.
Right.
Like, it's with purpose. And if it's hot, like, it's just slowing me down. But if I'm drinking tea, I'm vibing.
I'm savoring it.
Exactly. I'm chilling. I'm enjoying the moment. Also, tea, I think, goes pretty good with, like, a lot of foods and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you can have, like, cookies and tea. You can have something salty with tea.
Yeah.
It's pretty universal. But yeah, no, that's a good tea. So if that, what's the company called again?
Ahmed Teas.
Ahmed Teas. If you're listening,
sponsor us. Please.
Send some more teas.
Please.
Yeah, no. So today, we're talking about Hayao Miyazaki. So, I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
First question, your opinion about Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki.
Love.
Love. What would you say was like your background and your first introductions with not just Studio Ghibli movies, but also kind of anime in general and like your kind of general early vibes on it?
So the first time I ever saw a Studio Ghibli movie, I have like a distinct memory of seeing Spirited Away as a kid. I had not seen all of the other Studio Ghibli films I've seen in adulthood. Spirited Away was my only like Studio Ghibli movie when I was a kid that I had seen. I have this very specific memory. I had a friend who I was in Girl Scouts with, and her mom had one of those minivans with the TVs on the back.
Ooh.
Yeah, like the TVs on the back of the headrest.
That was the true class divide.
Right, so like they were rich,
TV
obviously.
Did they have a video game console in it?
I don't remember, but I remember the little screens. And we were driving with her mom to Girl Scout camp for like a weekend or whatever in the summer, and the drive was long, and so they put in Spirited Away for the movie because that's what my friend wanted to watch. And I was like, I've never seen this movie, and I was terrified.
Same.
It was incredible. I really liked it when I saw it the first time in that car ride. It did not set me up for like a great first night out in the wilderness though, because I was definitely freaked out outside that night. But yeah, so I watched it in the back of this car with the little TVs on the back of the headrests, and I really liked it. I was really freaked out by it, but when I was a kid, I really liked animation that I was scared by. Like I loved Courage the Cowardly Dog. That was one of my favorites, and that shit was scary as hell. So I really loved that movie. Have seen it a bunch of times since. And that one especially just holds a very special place in my heart. As for other animation, like anime, I really wasn't into a lot of the like anime that was necessarily on TV when we were kids, because I had like very specific shows that I wanted to watch, and a lot of the anime that was available to us as kids, like Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh and shit like that,
Naruto,
yeah, all of those were kind of marketed as like quote unquote boy shows.
That is true.
And so I didn't really watch those. I know that people feel conflicted about calling this anime, but I did like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Technically, interesting with Avatar, there's a lot of debate.
Right, I know that's why I said I know it's controversial, but
technically, so I want to preface: neither of us are like anime people.
No,
we've seen more Japanese animation since, but like
we're not experts.
We're not experts here. We don't know about all the stuff.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, like the definition of anime is specifically in reference to that style,
right?
Like to the aesthetic of what anime is, and not the fact that it is a cartoon made by a Japanese animation studio. Like that is
right.
That is not the definition of the distinguishing factor. But a lot of people argue that it is, feel that it is, which I think is valid, because it's also I think a fine definition. So like by that first definition of what like I'm pretty sure it actually is, Avatar is an anime, but most people might tell you no, it's not. It wasn't made in Japan. So
as far as other anime, I did watch some of the Pokemon show. I don't know what one was on when we were kids, but like it was like the OG one.
It had Brock and Misty.
Yeah.
So that was the Indigo League.
Yeah, I watched that a little bit as a kid, but I also played the card game, the like card version of Pokemon, with one of my friends when I was really little. And I also had Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I never watched Yu-Gi-Oh. So yeah. So kind of limited. And then in adulthood, like I watched Princess Mononoke with you for the first time, and then we have been watching a lot of Ghibli that neither one of us have seen, like My Neighbor Totoro, Ponyo, Kiki's Delivery Service. What else have we seen?
So we've seen, I'm pretty sure we've seen 6 in total. So yeah, what you said, Mononoke, Spirited Away, Kiki's,
Ponyo,
My Neighbor Totoro, and Boy and the Heron. So yeah, 6.
Yeah.
And if we want to look at the ones that we still gotta see, which I had up and then I moved it. So as far as Hayao Miyazaki's ones are listed here, we still haven't seen Castle in the Sky, Poco Rosso, which I want to watch next because I didn't know the premise of it and I really want to see it. It's about an Italian pilot that gets transformed into a pig man.
Oh hell yeah!
And his name's Ace. Howl's Moving Castle and The Wind Rises, which The Wind Rises was
his previous last one,
which came out 10 years ago, so pretty big gap. And that one's actually interesting because that one is kind of a biopic.
Yeah, I had seen that it was it was kind of autobiographical also.
Yeah, and well, The Boy and the Heron is.
But
The Wind Rises is about this. I believe he was an engineer during World War I who like designed a bunch of airplanes.
Yes.
And yeah, that one's about that dude specifically. But yeah, The Boy and the Heron has some autobiographical elements.
Yeah.
With Hayao Miyazaki. But yeah. So yeah, those are the ones we've seen, the ones we still need to see. As far as my history with anime and Studio Ghibli, growing up, the only ones I had seen was Spirited Away and Kiki's Delivery Service. I saw them through. It's kind of funny how I saw them. I have specific. So when I was in elementary school, I went to a little private school thing, and every once in a while we I forget what it was called, but we'd have like nighttime, like not a sleepover, but there'd be like a night fun kids night or whatever, where like we'd go and like eat snacks and like play in the gym and stuff and watch movies, and they put on Ghibli a lot. And the two ones I remember the most were Spirited Away and Kiki's Delivery Service. Spirited Away, because that movie also scared the fucking shit out of me.
I think it's supposed to.
It's like it has so many horror elements. No Face, still
I love him.
a burn terrifying. He's cool, but he's scary. And puts that there was a cosplayer I saw, I think I saw on like a TikTok like a year ago where like he was No Face at Comic-Con, and he put his hand, and he must have had some kind of mechanism, like he had like a black suit on with the black gloves, and it like gold, like little gold, assumingly they're like probably plastic or whatever, 3D printed, but like little gold bits like literally popped out of his hand, and there must have been some kind of mechanism, and it looked sick. But yeah, no, that one scared the shit out of me. And then Kiki's, I probably just remember Kiki's because I probably had a crush on Kiki as a little kid.
She was so cute.
She was very cute. Yeah, no, those two, and then Kiki's didn't really have an effect on me when I was that little, like as a story-wise. Spirited Away definitely stuck with me more just based on the visuals and how like insane some of there's some images from that movie that were just burned into my mind as a kid. And then anime in general, growing up, I definitely did watch a little bit of all those contemporary ones that you're talking about, like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece a little bit, but a lot of it I never followed them when I was a kid. Like if they were on, like if I was up at that night when it would be Toonami or whatever, like I might watch it when I was bored, but I had a lot of friends who were really into anime, like a lot of my nerdy ass boy friends were super into it, so like I kind of knew about it through them. And funnily enough, Dragon Ball Z specifically, I mostly know, most of what I know about the story of Dragon Ball Z comes from this video game called Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. It was this fighting game, and the story of the game is pretty much like the first few seasons of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, okay.
And like I played that game a fuck ton. Like I so much. And a lot of what I know about the story of Dragon Ball Z comes from that game, more than the show itself. And then also I watched, do you know about like dubbed, like online abridged versions of stuff for like Team 4 Star? You ever heard any of that?
No.
So Team 4 Star, I don't know if they're still making content, but they were a YouTube channel, and they would do their own kind of comedy parody dubs of anime. Like they'd use like, the show, like they'd use Dragon Ball Z and they would just dub in their own lines, and it was like mid 2000s shitty YouTube humor and stuff, but I thought it was the funniest fucking thing. And the cool thing about it though was that like they cut out all of the meat, because I'm sure you know the stereotypes of like a lot of those kind of anime, like most of the episodes are just them going and like charging and like there's a lot of like filler in those shonen animes like One Piece, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z. And the cool thing about the Team 4 Star Dragon Ball Z abridged, which I really liked, was that they cut out all the meat, and you still got the story with this stupid humor, but like it was just the highlights, which was cool. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like over the last few years, I mean, just as like I've tried to kind of watch more foreign film, like I've been watching a lot of martial arts movies lately and stuff. It's a similar thing as far as like watching anime. I know when COVID hit, I gave some animes that like my friends had always talked about, some tries. Like I watched Cowboy Bebop, which I'm a big fan of. Samurai Champloo. I'm gonna rewatch Akira soon, and I've actually got some thoughts with like Akira in relation to Studio Ghibli. But yeah, and then the movies that we've been watching lately. So like like I saw Princess Mononoke in college. But yeah, so at that point it was just those 3 Ghibli films, and now the ones that we've watched.
I think it's funny that you had some exposure to Studio Ghibli in like a private school setting, because something that I've thought about when thinking about my own experience with Studio Ghibli films is like I was introduced to it by a friend who had more Studio Ghibli films in her like in her house. Like she had DVDs of like the other ones, and I had never watched any. And after we had seen Spirited Away in the car, I like forgot what the title of the movie was, and I never found it until adulthood again. Like I found it again in college, and I had never forgot about it. Like I knew like the plot and stuff. But I think it's interesting because I feel like Studio Ghibli is rightfully held as like a more
like artsy
kind of like it elevated. It's
yeah.
like elevated animation, which it's beautiful. Like I'm not saying it shouldn't be elevated, but I feel like I wasn't exposed to it as much as a kid because like my parents were not like into like that scene necessarily.
It was seen as worldly,
right?
kind of
and like
higher class kind of deal.
Yeah, and it's like anything, like I never grew up with any foreign films, period. So like it also makes sense to me that it was like not an accessible thing for people around me either. Like that was the only friend that I had that had ever talked to me about Studio Ghibli. Was this friend that was like rich as hell. Yeah. And so I feel like it's kind of interesting because like when I was a kid, at least, Studio Ghibli like was not on my radar at all. And I was such like an animated movie person when I was a kid. Like I had all of the Disney VHSs when I was little. It's not as if I wasn't like watching animated stuff. I absolutely was. But if it wasn't accessible in that way, I just didn't have access to it, which I think is interesting how it feels very elevated and out of reach.
A little gatekept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way. It's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I get what you're saying. I think another element of that too is that, and I had a similar thing. Like I've always liked animation, but I definitely wasn't as huge into like Disney as you were.
Yeah.
Like I had seen them when they came out, but yeah, a lot of it is just that like the content that we've kind of grown up with has mostly been the content that is given to the American masses.
Yeah.
As far as like, yeah, no, my mom was the same way. Like we watched what was on cable and like what was on TV and stuff, and there wasn't. I don't think that Studio Ghibli movies were really syndicated on cable that much.
No, they weren't. I don't remember them ever being.
Yeah, I think they might have shown them on Cartoon Network a few times, like a few of them. Like I have a vague memory of seeing Spirited Away on Cartoon Network once, or like passing it through. But yeah, no, it wasn't really. Yeah, no, like growing up, same thing. Like people talked about them, but they were never really super exposed. I mean, I feel like they still had a bit of a presence and they were marketed towards like those parents who would like reach out for that kind of content because in fact, it was interesting enough. So Studio Ghibli was founded in 1986, I believe. I was looking at I closed the page. Founded in 1985, the company. And in 1996, they struck a deal, or like the company that the larger publishing company that owns Studio Ghibli struck a deal with Disney, where Disney had the sole international distribution rights to Studio Ghibli, and like particularly in America. And part of that, the deal was that for that Disney era of Studio Ghibli, Disney paid for 10% of all of the expenses of those movies. So like Disney, helped produce them as well. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
The headphones just flipped.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another reason why a lot of the English dubs of like pretty much every English dub of every Studio Ghibli movie is top notch.
Yeah.
Compared to like some other anime.
And the casts are stacked.
The casts are stacked too. Like The Boy and the Heron, when the cast went through, was like Florence Pugh, where?
Well, but even still, even earlier ones, like isn't it like Dakota Fanning is the main girl in Spirited Away?
I think, one second. Voice cast. Davy Chase. I don't know who this is. She's Lilo from Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense
Right.
in the Disney family.
Yeah.
No, but I think I know what movie you're talking about. It might be another one. I know Kirsten Dunst was the English version of what's her name, of Kiki
Oh yeah.
in the Disney dub, which I don't know if the one we watched was the Disney dub or not. But yeah, Kirsten Dunst, and there's a couple of other bigger, Debbie Reynolds, some other well-known kind of actors. Corey Burton is a voice actor that's around a lot.
I think Dakota Fanning is, maybe she's Ponyo. She's someone.
Oh, she might be Ponyo. I think I remember seeing. Hold up. That wasn't what I first thought. If you're doing a movie podcast, folks, get Wikipedia. Noah Cyrus.
Oh yeah, it's Miley Cyrus's little sister.
Yes, Noah Cyrus. Frankie Jonas is the boy in that movie. Tina Fey.
Kate Blanchett.
Matt Damon. Liam Neeson. Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
got fucking
Stacked.
Qui-Gon Jinn in your movies. Yeah, no, but very stacked. But what I was saying was, yeah, no, it makes sense that yeah, it wasn't the kind of thing that we were exposed to for sure. Yeah, I never thought about it that way. And it's interesting that this wasn't, but I feel like the kind of other anime shows like the Dragon Ball Z's and Naruto's are at a bit more of a mid-level.
Oh yeah, because those were syndicated.
Yeah, because
we actually saw those.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And
Same with Pokemon. Like that shit was widely distributed.
Absolutely. There also wasn't with Pokemon and all those other shows too. Naruto, DBZ, Yu-Gi-Oh. A lot of those have so many products associated with them.
Yeah.
That that also makes sense as to why in America they were pushed a lot more, because there's a lot more to sell.
Yeah, and Studio Ghibli doesn't really release like the rights to like they don't do very much merch. For lack of a better word.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there isn't a whole lot of aside from like when I got you for Christmas My Neighbor Totoro plushie, and it was kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to find like good merch.
I love him
for the U.S. for these movies. Yeah, he's incredible. But yeah, no, and a lot of those cartoons are designed around that concept of it, or like even other kind of Japanese like stuff, like what's it called, like Power Rangers Super Sentai. Originally, it was like like selling all those toys. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. But yeah, dang, I never thought about it that way. So with these movies, I guess we can talk more specifically about The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, why don't you give us a synopsis?
A synopsis of The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, because I'm not sure I fully grasped it.
Yeah, no, I feel like from the trailers that we saw, it was just going to be about a boy and his bird going on a wacky adventure. Because I feel like a lot of the lighter Ghibli movies, like I was thinking like, oh, it's going to be like My Neighbor Totoro, or it's going to be some kids going on adventures.
There's like Hayao Miyazaki has two modes.
Yeah.
You've got Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke on one side, and then on the other side you've got Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, Ponyo, where it's like we're either serious and really trying to like
we're dark as fuck.
We're dark as fuck. We're trying to convey very specific messages of like greed and like and morality and like what happens when you fuck up.
Social issues.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comments on capitalism for sure.
Yeah, and then on the other side you have like lighthearted, cute little adventure. Like My Neighbor Totoro is we're just vibing in the forest.
Yeah.
We find him, we hang out with him, we go on the cat bus, we take a nap. Like everything's fine. Same with Kiki's Delivery Service. The biggest conflict is at the end when she's saving her friend from the blimp thing. That whole situation.
And she loses her magic.
But it's very brief. Like that movie doesn't leave you hanging in the balance. It's mostly just her vibing.
Yeah. Also, when she loses her magic in that movie, it doesn't seem like there's a concern for her magic not coming back.
Right, it's not heavy. Like, it's not like, oh, shit, I'm not a witch anymore.
Yeah, all the side characters are like, don't worry, Kiki, you just need to eat some ramen and chill for a minute. Take a week, take a load off, you know?
Right, it's the same in Ponyo, where it's like the big storm and stuff. It's not actually that serious, like in the movie.
Yeah.
And it could have been. Like, they could have made it a lot more serious. So I feel like those movies are either so dark or like just so lighthearted. And yeah, I wasn't expecting The Boy and the Heron to be this dark.
Yeah, no, it was very much sold as
it was sold in America as lighthearted.
As lighthearted, yeah. Whereas, and a big part of that has to do with the title. So, the title for this movie in Japan and like the original title, like what it translates to in English, is "How Do You Live?" Which the movie technically, so the title of "How Do You Live" is in reference to a 1937 novel of the same name, which there are a few slight references to the book, but they completely changed the story. Like, it's also about a little boy kind of doing a thing, but there's no mystical element in the book as far as I'm aware of. You know, yeah, that is definitely a more accurate title for this movie, because the themes of this movie just talk a lot about like life and death, and you just like family, and like there's definitely a lot of, you know, like war and so okay. So talking about the movie opens up, or the movie's about this little boy named Mahito, I think Mahito is how it's pronounced. Who his mother dies in the opening of the movie. Spoilers. His mother dies in the opening of the movie in a fire, which was a beautifully animated scene. Like the way the fire looked in this opening.
It was a war related.
Yeah, it was like it was an attack.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought they had said that it was like an accident.
No, I thought it was supposed to be war related.
Let's see. Loses model in a hospital fire. Mahito's father. Wikipedia doesn't say if it's war. It says actually during the Pacific War in Tokyo, so it probably is. Yeah. Yeah, his mom dies, and then his dad, who is an air munitions factory owner. So like in the movie we see him make like cockpit windows for planes for the war. At this factory, moves to the countryside and marries his dead wife's younger sister,
which is so crazy.
So crazy. And when you first meet her, I feel like they don't really tell you that for a minute. Like, it took me a minute to figure out that it was her younger sister.
I just assumed it was pretty quickly, just because he's just like, the little boy's like, she looks just like my mom. I was like, oh my god. That's
crazy. It's like, I'm sure it's kind of messed up, but what if the dad thought like, oh, traded in for the younger model?
Literally.
Yeah.
And she tells him that she's pregnant.
Yeah, no, in a very
she's like,
weird
hey,
scene.
I'm your mom. Also, I'm pregnant.
Also,
haha.
Feel my belly.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a little brother or sister. Yeah, like the first time that they meet, and she brings to the house, and then she brings Mahito to their new home, which is like this beautiful kind of like farmhouse.
Yeah.
On top of this hill, looking down at the factory, and kind of proceeds to tell him some stories about weird supernatural shit around the house. He stumbles upon. Oh, there are also all these like older women, like these. They call them the grannies in the movie.
Yeah.
Or just like
they're like caretakers.
Caretakers, like kind of some servants living at the house. And Mahito is exploring the woods, and he stumbles upon this. Oh, well, he starts to see this big heron, this big bird.
Yeah, that like won't leave him alone.
Won't leave him alone. Creepy. Kind of hangs around by the pond near the house. And he follows the bird into the woods and finds this really creepy tower.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of all half destroyed. And then what's the Natsuko? I think that's how it's pronounced. So the sister, the aunt. I'm gonna call her the aunt because I want to make sure I don't mess up the pronunciation. But the aunt tells Mahito about like, oh yeah, that tower was like a meteorite that crashed, and my great uncle or whatever was obsessed with it and built a tower around it.
Yeah.
And
she's like, don't go there.
Don't go there. It's all bad. There are all these weird tunnels below it. And then Chekhov's
tower.
Chekhov's tower. And then he at one point he has a really weird encounter with the heron. He's like down by the water, and the heron starts talking to him.
Yeah.
Which we saw the English dubbed version of this movie.
Robert motherfucking Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson puts his whole patinacy
Yeah.
into it. He's really crazy and loud, and like it's a crazy voice that he comes up with, and the Heron's really scary.
The Heron is terrifying.
The design of like how he talks.
Yeah, the way it's like he's like basically wearing the Heron as a costume.
Yeah, and it's like his flesh face. It's like a little man.
Yeah, a little man inside the Heron, and it like pokes out. It's so weird.
It pokes out, and when he goes back into full Heron form, the Heron head like eats him. And
yeah,
it's really creepy and disturbing. Like, I mean, I think it's cool looking.
It is cool,
but it is creepy, and tells him that his presence is requested, and it seems like the Heron is up to some malicious intent.
Yeah.
And then Maito builds a bow, which is really cool, out of bamboo, and that was like a really cool scene. Oh wait, no, we forgot an important plot detail. He goes to his first day of school, and the kids bully him.
Yeah.
Just for being a weird rich kid,
yeah.
I guess. And when he comes home, dark scene. Already the movie is dealing with some pretty heavy dark themes, but before he comes home, he like picks up a rock and smashes a rock upside his head.
Yeah.
And blood just gushes. I mean, it's animated crazily, but blood just like gushes out of his head.
Yeah.
Profusely, and like his father thinks that somebody beat him up at school.
Right, because that was his intent, was to be like, I can't go back there because they beat me.
Exactly. So like he did that to not go back to school / I think a big element of it is his depression.
Yeah, and just to get some attention from his dad, really, because his dad just kind of doesn't give a shit.
His dad is focused on the company, and he's focused on his hot young wife. So anyway, so Maito's basically stuck on around the house. That's a big element. Then he makes a bow, follows the Heron, the Heron tells him that his mother's alive.
Yeah.
And he just has to like follow him, and he'll take him to his mother.
Which is fucking cheap.
Yeah.
That's so fucking mean to do to a child who lost their mother.
Yeah, real shit. Big Pennywise energy coming from the Heron.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay down here. Your damn mom's down here.
We got balloons down here, Georgie.
We got balloons down here, Maito. And then, so he takes him to the tower. They go through the tower. They find the remnants of, like, the old house.
Yeah.
Or something. And then there's a creepy voice.
Always a creepy voice.
Mark Hamill's creepy voice starts coming in, which I remember the moment I realized it was Mark Hamill. I was like, whoa, it's Luke Skywalker. Great voice actor, by the way. He's done so much good voice work. You know, he was the Joker in Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Best performance. And the Fire Lord in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Speaking of Avatar. So they go into the house, and then there's the Heron like tricks. The Heron like tricks Maito into thinking his mom's there, and this woman is there who has the appearance of his mom.
Yeah.
And she fucking melts.
Yeah, when he touches her, she melts. And then the Heron's pissed at him for touching her.
Exactly.
He's like, I made this with my magic.
I made this. It was my best one. And then from there, he shoots the Heron in the head, puts a hole in his beak, which causes him to lose his ability to fully transform into his full Heron mode, and he becomes like a goofy little
balding man.
Little balding man. It's very strange. And who can't fly, so he's in like a much weaker state. And then Maito, they get sucked into the floor.
Yep.
And they get transported to this alternate world, which now at this point honestly, I feel like the overall plot from this point in the movie isn't super complicated.
Yeah.
Like on a base level, but the way they the way they execute some of the story beats and some of the things from this point is like really weird. And like I feel like I'm very excited to watch this movie again, especially in Japanese.
Yeah.
Because like some reviewers I've watched have said that like in Japanese, like because with all of these translations and like all and for other reasons, I'm gonna watch other Studio Ghibli movies in their Japanese dub. They change certain way they say things and like certain elements. of the story in the dialogue, and that's not just exclusive to Studio Ghibli as well, but like in a lot of things that have been dubbed in English for American audiences, they've changed huge story elements in a lot of different shows and movies.
It's true for books too, because I've read some translated books, and like there are some, you can tell sometimes where you're like, I'm not fully getting what's happening here.
Exactly.
Because there's a cultural divide, or because like the translation just was the best they could do, but it wasn't quite right.
It wasn't quite it, yeah. I mean, sometimes, in my experience, it's either because of that cultural thing where it's like, we need to change or remove this reference to a cultural thing that an American audience just won't understand.
Right.
Or, in some cases, it's because maybe the morals or like the perspectives of the American distributor clashes what they want. Like the example I'm thinking of right now, which I always think of because I think it's hilarious. In Yu-Gi-Oh, do you remember the Shadow Realm?
No.
So at one point they're doing the Shadow games in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is like they're in this like evil place, and if they lose a Yu-Gi-Oh game, so in the original Japanese version of Yu-Gi-Oh, the Shadow games is if you lose the Yu-Gi-Oh game, you get killed. Like you lose the Yu-Gi-Oh game, you die. And when 4Kids TV did the dub, they're like, well, we don't want to like have this whole death thing going on, so they changed it and made it that if you lose, you get sent to the Shadow Realm. And the Shadow Realm is like this just like dimension of darkness where your mind is just like thrown into a pit of nothingness.
Isn't that worse than death?
That does sound worse than death, don't it? Like, I remember as a kid, I was scared of the idea of the Shadow Realm. Like, that sounds way scarier than death.
Yeah, because I feel like even with movies with, really difficult themes, when you're a kid, when you're just told, like, oh, and that character died, like, I feel like that shit hits me way harder as an adult than it does as a kid. So I think if they had just kept it being death, it wouldn't have hit kids very hard.
No.
Versus like having something like a visual representation of like basically a terrible afterlife. That sounds worse to me.
Yeah, no, just like saying like you will just basically be tortured with nothingness forever is a lot scarier. But anyway, yes, like that's, I think watching the Japanese version of this movie, Boy and the Heron, will clear up some things at this point. But basically, the gist of it in this alternate world is that like, so Mahito's mom, when she was a little girl, went to this parallel world that Mahito is now jumping around in.
Yeah.
And she was missing for a year, I think they say earlier in the movie. And in this parallel dimension, things are kind of weird. There are these other herons, like all of these herons that are flying around this like island.
Pelicans. Those are pelicans.
Pelicans. And I thought they were the same as the herons.
No.
So you're already messing stuff up. That are flying around, eating people, eating whatever they can find. But really, there's this really sad scene where Mahito is talking to one of the pelicans because they all talk.
Yeah.
And he's like, and
he's injured.
Yeah. Like, we're just trying to survive, man.
Yeah.
Fucking, like, listen, we're stuck on this island. If we try to fly away, we just end up back here. We're just trying to survive. And one of the important things is there are these little like puffball marshmallow.
The little marshmallow guys.
They give real, the spirit guys from Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
They give those kind of vibes.
Or like soot sprites.
Yeah. Like, there's
a classic Studio Ghibli little creature.
There's always
a classic little guy.
Always like these little, just like abundant creatures. Without a doubt in my mind now, the Kuruks from the new Zelda games are definitely direct references to like Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli.
100%.
Ghibli little guys.
Absolutely. Like Princess Mononoke is the Legend of Zelda movie, essentially.
Well, yeah.
Pretty much. But yeah, no, so there are these little guys that you find out in the movie, like Mahito meets this woman there who's like
a badass.
A badass woman who doesn't take any shit. And there are these little puffball guys, and she feeds them, and then they all start to inflate and blow up and start going into the sky. And she explains to Mahito that they're going to be people. They're going on to Mahito's world, and the idea is that these are like the souls of people.
They're like baby souls.
They're like baby souls that are going on to people. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this place is like, at that point maybe I'm like, oh, so is this a Soul that we're doing?
Right, it's kind of like, yeah.
Is this like the Great Before?
Yeah.
Which I feel like later on it kind of makes it like, okay, it's not really the case because but anyway, so these things, and the pelicans eat these things.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you've ever seen footage of baby sea turtles trying to run to the ocean, and like all of the fucking seagulls are picking them off the beach. It's like that.
Yeah.
Where the pelicans just swoop in and eat them, and it's like you are so mad at the pelicans or the seagulls, but like at the end of the day, they're just trying to eat.
Yeah, they're just trying to survive. Like they gotta eat something. Which, you know, sad to see. But yeah, no, basically, yeah. So the pelicans eat, and then Maito meets this young woman who she has fire powers, and her fire powers are pretty badass.
True.
Like she comes in and burns the pelicans, and like she's fighting with her fire powers. And you find out that they don't tell you right off the bat.
Yeah.
In the movie, like at some point Maito figures it out, but this young woman is like her mother, younger.
Yeah.
Which,
it's just like a kid version of his mom.
Yeah. And like, because she makes him a sandwich that's exactly the same as the sandwich that he remembers his mom making. He's like, wow, it's just like my mom's. And she keeps referring to her. Oh wait, no, that was another important thing. See, the
plot is thick.
The plot is very thick. Maito's aunt gets sucked into the world, and he's here to find his aunt and bring her back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this young girl is his mom, but either an alternate version of her mom, or it's like the past version of her mom who was stuck there before.
His mom, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I think it's all about, because at the end of the movie, when she goes back through the portal, she's like, I gotta go back and become your mom, you know, which communicates to me that, like, okay, so
he like went back in time or something.
Yeah, or like this universe that they're in, time is like different. Like time is like fucked in it. Like there's I can't believe I didn't expect to be referencing Dungeons and Daddies today. But in Dungeons and Daddies, they have this mechanic where like D&D world, time is going like a lot slower in D&D world than it is in real world. So like they're there for like a few years in D&D world, but only like 3 days have passed in on Earth. So it's probably one of those situations where like time is weird. And yeah, no, so then Maito meets Mark Hamill, who, what's his character's name in the movie? The granduncle, Maito's great granduncle, who basically
was the one who made the tower.
The one who made the tower from this, and there's like a whole, it gets really weird at this point. He created this universe, or like he controls this universe using these like blocks of creation or whatever, and he wants Maito to take over as like the steward of this plane of existence or whatever. Oh, and then there's parakeets, scary parakeets,
big scary parakeets, and the big scary parakeet king.
And the big scary parakeet king who shows up, and he's scary. Oh, and he's voiced by Dave Bautista.
That's so funny.
If they ever do a live action Boy and the Heron, you can just play him.
Yeah.
Just put feathers on the stuff. Love to see Bautista in it. Oh, Willem Dafoe was that dying pelican?
Yeah.
Damn, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's you, Maito. Yeah, no, so then, yeah, so, and then this world gets destroyed, because the Parakeet King comes in and knocks over, like, the blocks that are, like, controlling the world.
Yeah, because he was just being an asshole.
He was being a fucking dick. And that was a pretty cool scene animation-wise.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of just literally see the world just get torn apart. Like, the sky kind of falls and, like, the ground starts crackling, and it's pretty nuts. And then Maito goes back to his world. And then, yeah, that's pretty much...
He saves his aunt mother.
He saves his aunt mother. He has a little brother at the end that there's like a little flash forward.
Yeah.
And they move back to Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's kind of the movie. And it's a weird one. So what were you expecting going in to it? Like, what did you think it was going to be? And then what ended up being your initial thoughts when you got out of the theater?
I thought it was going to be either really lighthearted, like we had talked about, like My Neighbor Totoro or Kiki's Delivery Service, or I thought it would be, I don't know, I just thought it would be different than it was. I think that I felt like when it was introducing his dad and his new mom, I thought that they were going to be a part of the plot more than they were. And to me, and I feel like this is partially cultural maybe, for like a disconnect for me, is that like when I realized that his dad had literally just like replaced his mom with the younger model, literally, like her younger sister, and it was just kind of sprung on him that now he's gonna be having a baby sibling, and like this is his new mom. Like, I thought that was so shitty for him, especially because she tells him like, I'm your mom now, which is always like, that's a really tough thing to be telling a kid whose mom died, that like you're just gonna replace her. And I feel like that might have been something that was lost in translation for me, or like something cultural where it's like those values didn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just was like, this father is a piece of shit. And I feel like we were supposed to not super like him. Like, I didn't think we were supposed to like him because he was just like not a very, like, he didn't seem like a great dad. And there are parts of the movie where he's just like throwing his money at stuff, which like obviously is like, you know, indicative of his greed and stuff. But I just felt like the family dynamic was not, I felt like the family dynamic was negative enough to have them be a bigger part of the movie, if that makes sense. Like in Spirited Away, her dad and mom are like not attentive to her needs, and then they get turned into pigs and stuff. Like there was a reason for them being like not great, is like part of the plot was that they were not great parents. And so I kind of expected like the parents to learn a lesson or something.
The dad to play like a much bigger role.
Yeah, and like maybe learn some humility or something.
Yeah.
But that didn't really happen. I was also confused by all the birds. There were a lot of birds in this one.
Yeah.
And I liked this movie. I think that on a rewatch with it just being subbed in English and just like normal Japanese audio, I feel like I'll get more of it. I feel like this is the first Studio Ghibli movie that I have seen that too much of it was lost in translation for me. Because all of the other ones that we have seen, I feel like I've been able to grasp the themes perfectly fine, and that the translations of the themes worked for me.
Yeah.
But with this one, it just like didn't really translate for me.
No, 100%. Yeah, there was definitely a lot that was kind of lost, and definitely like a lot of it's probably very cultural as well. Like this was specifically about the Pacific War, which I was gonna respond with maybe with how the marriage was, and like how the dad quote unquote traded in for the younger model. Maybe it's just the fact that it's the 40s.
Right, there's that too.
Yeah. Like in time wise, and even though like that,
and he needs someone to like quote unquote take care of his son.
Yeah, which you know is not like an excuse for like how it is, but like maybe it was in reference to that as opposed to like some kind of Japanese representation of family that isn't like, that's different than how we kind of feel in like an American family dynamic.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the birds, I mean I feel like it's with all the bird stuff, and this is something that shows up in pretty much all of Hayao Miyazaki's films. He's obsessed with aviation and planes.
That makes sense.
Like, he loves planes. Like, a lot of his movies have to do with like flying and planes and like things like that, and a lot of it comes down to there was actually I was watching a video earlier before we watched this episode that was just breaking down a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's films, and in Kiki's Delivery Service specifically, there's this big juxtaposition between Kiki and how like Kiki's flying feels and is presented in the movie, and Totoro as well, like how he flies and stuff, is flying for Hayao Miyazaki and flying as like a childlike concept represents freedom and liberation and this kind of ultimate form of creativity that like kids naturally kind of just have this concept of and are like naturally in awe of. and that's a big element of why he always includes like flying characters or flying vehicles or planes and stuff. And he grew up, in those like kind of war times where he's seeing like all these planes being built and like planes just being a big part of the culture. And he just
That makes sense.
Yeah, and through a kid's eyes, it's awesome in that sense. Like seeing all these planes everywhere. And that's why they're kind of in his movies a lot. And in Kiki's Livery Service, there's a juxtaposition between how Kiki flies and what it represents for her, versus like there's a big like war Zeppelin in that movie, which plays a big part at the end. Like, or I don't know if it's for war, but like
it's a blimp.
A big blimp that's like this big gray thing, and that was supposed to represent like flight being like an industrial, like kind of sturdy, like this is for business kind of thing, and like not fun. Like big bad capitalism bad, which is a lot of what Kiki's and Spirited Away is, as far as like the themes of those.
And Princess Mononoke.
That's
why I think that's why I expected more, like something to happen with his dad.
That's true.
Because he was just a raging capitalist.
He's just a big old industrialist. Yeah, I'm surprised they kind of didn't go in that realm. It's probably just because the story was a lot more just kind of personal to his life.
That's what I was gonna say too. Is I think that it didn't hit for me as much as other Studio Ghibli movies have that I've seen, because it's just not my story.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like I didn't know something that the creators did.
Yeah.
Like it felt like I was not in on the story as much, which is fair, because like it is very autobiographical for him. And it kind of felt like how watching The Fabelmans felt. Where, for me,
you read my fucking mind, by the way. I was literally thinking about The Fabelmans.
Yeah, because I really liked watching The Fabelmans, but I was like, at the end of the day, this has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? When usually in movies, I'm able to be like, yeah, I see that, We've all been Kiki losing her magic, Like,
Absolutely.
that feels relatable. Smashing a rock to your head because the kids at school bullied you did not translate for me. Like, that... The characters in this movie were not relatable to me, and they don't have to be for me to enjoy the movie, but it just means that I didn't connect with it as much. Like, I feel like in a lot of his other movies, I was able to see myself as one of the characters, and not so much in this one.
Yeah, you're really able to put yourself in the shoes of the characters. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in Spirited Away, we've all worked customer service. We've all been washing the bath after the big stinky guy. That shit sucks, you know? Like, there's certain elements of all the other ones that I can relate to.
Yeah, at the very least, all the protagonists of all of his other movies are a bit more...
They're likable,
but also more open-ended.
Yeah.
As far as, like, you can really...
It's really like an insert yourself kind of situation.
Whereas, like, this character of Maito was he had very specific drama.
Yeah, and he was really sad. And sullen.
Yeah. I feel like the main thing, sad thing about this, that I feel like they want you to connect with him, with this character specifically, is like if you suffered a big loss like that, and how you recover from that, whether, specifically as people, like your family, which I can kind of definitely see how that is related, as far as like you kind of block out everything, and he's very stagnant throughout this whole movie. Like he's very like, that people can totally see that hand motion that I just did. I did like a little salute. And
he is very stoic.
Yeah, no, not as expressive as like other, like Chihiro, is that her name in Spirited Away? She's always like yelling and crying and telling
she's always yelling and crying.
Well, no, but she's always telling the audience what she's feeling. Like
she's like, fuck bro, I don't want to go over there.
Yeah, or like after her like first day at work, she's like crying in her in her cot or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, I've been there, buddy. And like, whereas like I feel like this character, you kind of have to infer a lot about what
he didn't
feeling.
let us in.
Yeah.
he
And
also didn't talk very much.
No, he had very few lines, this kid. Yeah. But I don't know, it was cool because he kind of reminded me of like he was like a little Rambo or something. Like he was very industrious, like he like tinkering with stuff, inventing, and it seems like he's interested in his father's business in what he does. But yeah, no, they definitely didn't bring you in, and I feel like that's probably a big element of why it was hard to connect to this movie. I feel like something like Princess Mononoke has a similar kind of character. I forget the main characters in the Demon Arm Boy.
Yeah, I think the difference with Princess Mononoke, though, is that, because I feel that way too, with Princess Mononoke, where I don't feel super connected necessarily to individual characters, but the overall goal I can connect to. Like, the environmental stuff makes sense to me. Like, the reason for the conflict makes a lot more sense to me than in this movie, because the conflict is really within himself, and he doesn't really share it.
Yeah, exactly. The themes in Mononoke and the overall what he wants is obvious.
Yeah.
And affects, and it's also universal.
Right. It's like capitalism bad, environment save.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like an attack on industry, period.
Yeah. And colonialism.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, with The Boy and the Heron, I mean, yeah, summed it up right there. You know, I liked this movie. I'm excited to rewatch it. I thought there was some pretty great moments of just animation, and I mean, I loved. It was really cool to see a 2D animated movie that is hand drawn.
Oh, I love that shit.
You know,
I love that shit so much.
Exactly. Like, this looks like it could have come out when Spirited Away came out and stuff. There are a few scenes. I remember specifically, like, a few of them stood out to me. There were a few moments where they utilized some CGI elements.
They did, like when the ground was moving.
Yeah.
I saw that too. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, no, like when they were sinking into the ground, it was 3D. There was a point where he was going down the hallway.
Yep.
And they used 3D animation. I don't know if, like, I imagine some of that was just, like, budget and time, as far as, like, we need, like, a little scene here of them going down the hallway, and we can't afford to, like, completely hand draw.
That made me really sad when I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it wasn't jarring. It only happened, like, a handful of times.
Yeah. I just love 2D animation a lot.
Yeah.
And Studio Ghibli is one of the only people actually doing that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're one of the only studios actually doing it.
Yeah. I mean, a big part of it is that, good transition talk to this. A big part of it is that animation is respected so much more by the general masses, like with Japanese animation, than in America. Like, in America, for the most part, animation is viewed as just a thing for kids.
Right, that's how my family always viewed it. Like, Courtney wants to watch fucking Cinderella or whatever, you know?
Just a fucking cartoon. Like, same thing. My mom, same thing.
Yeah, like, my family never wanted to watch animation with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was watching all of those movies that I really liked as a kid by myself, because, like, my parents were like, why the fuck do we want to watch that?
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to watch Dumbo with me.
Yeah. No, I had very similar experience as far as, like, my, trying to think. There were, like, some more, Marvel and DC put out some, like, animated movies that were targeted more towards, like, teens and, like, young adults that I was really into, that I couldn't really tell my mom about, or, like, get her into, like, check it out, it's really cool, you know, because she loves like superhero movies and stuff too. Like, we watched all the MCU films together and stuff, but like, if it was animated, nah. Right. Like Spider-Verse, I'm sure that
your mom would love Spider-Verse if she gave it a shot.
She would fucking love Spider-Verse, but she would not be able to get past. She's aware of it. Like, I remember telling her about, like, oh yeah, that Black Spider-Man. Yeah, you call me when they make it real. Yeah, no. Whereas, like, with anime and, like, in Japan, like, it's a very respected, you know, art form. Like, anime shows are given, like, prime time TV slots that adults fully watch and enjoy. And I think that's a big part of why anime is so successful in, like, with American audiences too.
Because, like, it's an unused niche.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. Because
here, like, most of the adult animation that's made here is, like, crass as fuck. Mm-hmm. It's like South Park. Mm-hmm. You know? There's not really, like, people in America making, like, substantial animation for adults.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're getting there slowly but surely. Like, I feel like in the last few years there's been some animated projects that have really, like, for wider audiences, that have really pushed, like
Big Mouth. Big Mouth
being a big one.
BoJack Horseman.
Like, a lot of those adult animated cartoons for sure are still increasingly popular. But I was gonna say something like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio was a big splash. And then is she okay?
Yeah, she's fine.
Gotcha. Our dog Blossom. We haven't set her up with a mic, but
she's rearranging herself.
She's rearranging. I'd say the Spider-Verse movie, especially Across the Spider-Verse, is geared slightly more towards adult audiences, not just kids.
Yeah.
I feel like that first Spider-Verse movie definitely had a big part in bringing more older people into the animation fold. Another thing that's great about that too is that it's bringing a lot of elements of 2D animation back into the mainstream. Even though those are 3D animated movies, like the style makes it feel 2D.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, with this movie, excited to rewatch it.
I think I'll have a much better feeling about it rewatching it with the subtitles.
Yeah.
I liked it though overall. It's definitely not my favorite Studio Ghibli movie, but I like it. Like it definitely deserves some rewatches.
How would you rank all the Ghibli movies you've seen?
That's really tough.
At the moment, in its current,
That's tough.
It can change in the future.
Spirited Away is still my favorite.
Okay.
My Neighbor Totoro. Kiki's. Mononoke. Boy and the Heron. And Ponyo.
Yeah, okay. You put Ponyo higher last time
I know, but then I was thinking about Ponyo.
Nothing about Ponyo really sticks with me.
The only thing about Ponyo that I really, really love is I love the underwater animation. And I love that scene with the mom in the boat, like the goddess mother.
Yeah.
And then the boat's right in front of her. Oh my god. She's so beautiful.
She's so beautiful.
And I love underwater animation. Because just like ocean stuff is so pretty.
Yeah, you were watching the ocean documentary.
Yeah, last night I was watching Blue Planet 2.
Yeah.
Narrated by David Attenborough.
It seemed very calming.
I was very entranced by it. And then I painted a coral reef.
Awesome.
Because, yeah. But yeah.
Which you can buy on Etsy.
Yeah, soon. But yeah, Ponyo plot-wise was meh for me, which is why it's low. But the animation's beautiful still. All the animation with Studio Ghibli is beautiful. But yeah, I think this one might rise in the ranks upon a rewatch.
Yeah.
How do they rank for you?
Spirited Away. Where'd you put Princess Mononoke again? In your
I put Princess Mononoke after Kiki's.
Okay, cool. For me, Princess Mononoke is number one. For me. So I was like, it's the boy one. It's badass. I don't know. I love the story, the characters, like a lot of the moments in that movie. Plus, it's just so cool. Like it is like there are just some really great moments of action in that one. So Mononoke. 2, I'd probably put Kiki's.
You love Kiki's.
I do love Kiki. Kiki's is very calming.
It is.
Just the best. It's such a good comfort movie.
It's a good vibe.
Like the food looks great. The music's fun. It's got a fun story. Cute.
I love that cute little cat.
The cats. Yes, the cats. When she stops being able to understand the cat.
So sad.
Sad. Just the saddest moment. I also like her the boy who makes the gadgets, who makes the bike. I think he's cool. And overall, just a big comfort movie. Then I'd probably go My Neighbor Totoro. Cat Bus. Yeah, no, that one's just so fun.
It's so good.
Totoro's.
He's just sleepy.
Totoro's such a.
I love Totoro.
Such a fun design character. That one's probably the most kid friendly.
Yeah, that one's such a vibe.
As well, like that one's probably
that one and Kiki's.
Yeah, and that one was a very early one, so it makes sense. And then what's left? Spirited Away. So
Spirited Away, Ponyo, this one.
Then Spirited Away. Just an amazing animation, great story.
I love the bathhouse.
The bathhouse is beautiful. Spirited Away.
Spirited Away also just has the widest variety of creatures. Like there's so many creatures.
True. And then Then Boy and the Heron, then Ponyo.
Damn, both of us hating on Ponyo.
Yeah, no, Ponyo was not it.
But the thing is with Studio Ghibli is that, like, even from top to bottom of this list, even the movies that we are ranking lower are still incredible.
Yeah,
and, like, steps above other movies.
Yeah, Ponyo is still... The Boy and the Heron is still, like, miles above every
like,
anime movie. And Ponyo was also higher.
I think the lowest I've ever rated a Studio Ghibli movie on Letterboxd is a 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah. And, like, most of them are 5s for me. So
yeah, they're all really incredible.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question. This is a bit... This is a new kind of segment bit.
A new segment. I've been out of the podcast game for a minute.
I know. Well, we only the first time we did it was last episode.
Oh, okay.
I'm stealing it from another podcast.
Okay.
That which I'll just say it. Confused Breakfast, great movie podcast. We're doing this thing where we choose a prop that we would want to have from the movies that we're talking about.
Okay.
Like, what would you want to take? And because we've talked about a lot of movies here, and because it's obviously it's animated, so there aren't real props, but an item from the movie.
Any Studio Ghibli movie?
You get to, because we're talking about a lot of them, pick 3 items that you'd want to have. And I'm going to put this out there right now. You cannot have, like, animals. Like, you can't.
I was just going to say, can I have a creature?
You can't have a creature.
Okay. That's tough.
That is tough. We can go back and forth on our items. I know I have one of them for me is definitely the bow from The Boy and the Heron.
Okay, fair.
The bamboo bow.
Absolutely. I got one.
You got one.
A little one color each of the little from Spirited Away, the little stars that the soot sprites eat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one each of those.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Because then I'd have soot sprites because they would come.
That's an excellent choice.
Mm-hmm.
I want No Face's mask.
But you hate him.
I know, but it would look badass.
I love him so much.
On our shelf.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I want Totoro's bed.
Totoro's bed. That's a good one.
Because he just looks so fucking cozy. That little, like, forest bed, I'll take it.
So comfy.
Yeah.
Yes. We each got one more. What do we want?
I got one. Kiki's broom.
Kiki's broom, yeah. I was thinking that too, but I feel like, yeah, but that was a... Oh, wait, no, the flying bike from Kiki's.
Aw.
The flying bike,
yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a good segment. Definitely put it on the wall. My last question to you is, which Miyazaki you want to watch next? I got the list here.
That's tough. Let me see. I can't see your list.
Oh, okay, let me turn the screen.
So far away from me.
Oh wait, I'll zoom in on some of the earlier ones. We haven't seen Castle in the Sky, Totoro.
We saw Totoro.
Sorry, no, my bad. Castle in the Sky, Poco Rosso, Howl's Moving Castle, and The Wind Rises are the only ones we have left.
I really want to see Howl's Moving Castle.
Mm-hmm.
That's my best friend's favorite.
Yeah.
Shout out Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just haven't seen it because I feel like I'm just waiting for the right moment to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Because it comes to me with such great recommendation that I've just been kind of waiting.
Influenced by Miyazaki's opposition to the United States invasion of Iraq.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. That one's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. What one do you want to see?
Yeah, I want to see Porco Rosso. Cause look at him.
Why does he look like that?
Look at your boy.
Oh my god.
Why is he so cool? Wait, I need to look up more pigs.
That's like the coolest pig I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, he's such a badass.
I'm in vet school, so I've seen a lot of pigs.
Look at your boy with the mustache.
Damn. They turned him into a pig, but they didn't take away his riz.
Fuck yeah, no.
Oh my god!
Look at him, so rizzy. He's
Does
on
he
a
still
date.
have a girlfriend?
Oh boy, is he single?
Oh my! Look at her! Look at the way she's looking at him.
She's like, damn.
Did you see that?
Yeah, bruh. The power stance with the trench coat.
Oh my god!
All the people at home are just looking at pictures of
Porco Rosso.
Yeah, but she's like, I want the dick.
Oh my god!
I want the hog.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
That's horrific.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, great. Yeah, so I'd say, yeah, that wraps up this episode, I think. pretty good.
Go see The Boy and the Heron because it was really good.
Go see The Boy and the Heron in English and Japanese.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a little funny story. I've told you about this, but like when I worked in the movie theater, we would have Ghibli Fest pretty much every summer. Like we'd show Ghibli movies, and we show them in English and in Japanese.
Yeah.
It's labeled on the ticket. A lot of parents, or not just parents, but like people would just buy whatever ticket and wouldn't pay attention to what it said.
Yeah, of course.
And they'd show up to the Japanese versions. And with parents, I somewhat understood.
Yeah.
Because it was like, my kids can't read.
Yeah, that's fair if they brought like their young kids.
But
also pay attention.
Yeah, but also you pay attention when you're buying this shit. But also there were some adults who came in and see and was like, I don't want to be reading in my movie.
I love subtitles. If you're a subtitle hater, I don't know what to do with you.
Subtitles are fantastic.
I love subtitles.
Yes.
The only thing that is tough for me about subtitles when watching movies that are not dubbed is that I have ADHD and love to like do stuff while watching a movie. Like I like to be crocheting or something, and it's a little bit tough to do that when I have to like actually read, the subtitles all the time. But it's still fun. Mm-hmm. Like it's still fine. Watch movies that aren't made in your language. We are very privileged here in the U.S. to have most things in our in English.
In English, yeah.
And most things made here,
mm-hmm.
like media-wise. And international stuff is often just as good or better. So, like, watch some shit subbed. You'll live, I promise.
Check it out, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Expand your horizons.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Watch it all. That was this episode of Midnight Movie Gang. Please let us know what your favorite Ghibli is and which one we should watch next. You can DM the Midnight Movie Gang Instagram at Midnight Movie Gang, all one word, all lowercase. Follow us and let us know what your favorite Ghibli is and what you like us to talk about.
Hell yeah.
That'd be sick. Have a nice night.
With childish frustrations and complexes which the police are searching for James Thomas, believed to be the lover of Miss Williams, and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. We grant everybody that I'm here to hold on. Oh, please tell me where this going. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How long is it? How hopeless that I got in here? 3 tickets to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you think? Special agent. Special agent.